But let me play the chords one more. Let it go through one more time. The press is coming out and acknowledging the absolute disaster, epic, what's your Roman Empire disaster of American AI. So we're going to go through. Now, you've heard that from me for probably a year. I did a piece a couple of weeks ago called OpenAI Will Die. I did a piece, you've been hearing a long time. This isn't like I told you so, but it's a little bit of I told you so. And this is 10 to 20 times bigger than the mortgage crisis of 2008. As we'll see, there's like $2 trillion off the balance sheets that nobody, I mean, unless you're a geek and like you're me and like you read all day. There's $2 trillion off the balance sheets. There's $2 trillion on the balance sheets. All the cash flow of the Magnificent Seven, all the tech companies are putting all their cash flow into American AI, and it just failed. This is a bigger disaster than the war on terror is a 36 and counting, a $36 trillion disaster. We have nothing to show for $40 trillion in debt. We have nothing. Remember Trump? You've seen me do it many times. $22 trillion, unbelievable, right? And let me just walk you through how this works. Like Enron, or like Bernie Madoff, or remember what they did at Enron at the end. Somebody stood up and said, excuse me, somebody stood up and said, should I put all of my 401k in Enron? And CEO Schilling said, I don't see why not. Remember that? So at the end, all they were doing is pumping the Enron stock. That's what Trump just did to the NASDAQ. And David Sachs and Mark Zuckerberg, I don't have to go through it. I've spent so many hours on here explaining this to everybody. They have a $22 trillion debt, equity, and everything, and it has no asset behind it. Nothing. As I'm going to mansplain it to you here in the next couple of minutes. And really, at the end of this conversation, I'm going to show you that reconstructionusa.com is the future of AI. Like, we don't want to write code. I'm not interested in that, but let me just walk you through like how I got to like do Bruno stuff. A guy in healthcare, I've told the story many times, so I'll just make it short. Guy in healthcare delivers a blockchain strategy, not a crypto, but a blockchain strategy to the biggest healthcare company in the United States. Calls me immediately after and tells me how it went for 50 minutes because he doesn't have friends. And I went, oh my God, that's going to take over finance. And he said, that's right. So then you go to last year when I went to Caltech, and on a Saturday morning, they explained that AI is going to be the user interface for blockchain. And I went, oh my God. And then it was all about agentic AI. No one even talks about AGI anymore because it never existed. It was a fake thing to create $22 trillion of fake wealth. There was a book written in 2008 called The $1 Trillion Meltdown. I think it was written in 2007, The $1 Trillion Meltdown. This is a $22 trillion meltdown. And the Mark Fabers and Jim Rogers of the world in 2009, I've told the story a million times, Jim Rogers in front of Becky Quick says, Becky, this hasn't worked anywhere. And now we've just metastasized the less than $1 trillion of bad mortgages with all this money printing and credit creation is now a $22 trillion hallucination. it's 40% of the stock market. I don't know how any stockbroker or any investment advisor or trust officer is interacting with their clients right now. There is no way to justify this on a fiduciary basis to have your money in the stock market. There is no fucking way. And I'm going to read this article from the Wall Street Journal. You've heard this from me for the last 9 months or a year. And the setup here is like the Mississippi bubble, like the South Sea bubble, that you had this weird merging of Silicon Valley, Wall Street, and the federal government in the Trump administration, right? You had the implied backing for this massive spending, all the cash flow of the big tech companies going into, and I would just like in an amateur way, just go, these are all gaming chips that they're buying from NVIDIA. They're putting them in a warehouse in the West Texas desert, and they're going to burn out in 3.5 years. Like, I would just go like, there's no way this works. Okay. So it's on the Drudge Report, which means it's going to get 20 million views today. But here's, just to make it worse, there's a testosterone man himself, and the Pentagon's out of money. I don't know what that means. Okay, I'm going to find the Wall Street Journal article. Okay, there's one on Semaphore. Concerns grow over AI giants' hidden debts. I posted it for you. AI is 82% of all venture capital spending from the last couple of years. It's half of all corporate bond issuance in the last couple of years. And it's 40% of the stock market. The mortgage crisis, I don't know, the stock market was like valued at 15 trillion or something like that. The mortgage crisis was like, I don't know, 2% of America's assets. I mean, it's just a completely insignificant number. And that's why a bunch of people were just like, just cut it off, just foreclose on everything. Or as I always said, they could have put everybody on interest only for 24 months, right? Everybody would still make their usury, make their return on capital, and not have their principal paid back to them through. At the time, the mortgages were going into pensions and things like that. Well, the pensions don't really want their principal back, they just want the interest. There's actually 3 articles. There's one from the Atlantic, and then the one I read this morning that triggered this is the Wall Street Journal. And if you'll indulge me, I'm going to read parts of it to you. So here's the article. There's our 3 captains of AI right there. Now, I want you to think about who's involved. It's the Silicon Valley, the venture capital, the Chamath Palihapitiya is, remember David Sachs is from the All In podcast with Chamath Palihapitiya, and I forgot the other guy's name. They're billionaires, and like in America, billionaires just love to sit around and hear themselves talk because they're so wonderful because they're billionaires. And they fucked this thing up. So the tech people from the big tech companies and the Silicon Valley venture capital people got in bed with the Trump administration to create what Alex Clark called the technological republic. The technological republic, just sort of, how exactly would that work? Well, the bureaucracies will use really good compute. No, he's arguing, like Peter Thiel does, that the entire Constitution should be overridden by technology. And then you wake up to this article. So Silicon Valley and Washington are debating multi-billion-dollar questions. Should American companies be able to use Chinese artificial intelligence models? OpenAI and Anthropic executives are sounding an alarm about the rise of cheap AI. particularly powerful new models produced in China, suggesting they will lead to a dystopian AI future and present unacceptable security risks without regulation. Now, remember, the Trump administration wanted to very quickly drive something through Congress so that the states couldn't do anything to protect themselves from AI. The emergence of highly capable open autonomous AI systems, including Moonshot's Kimi K3, Alibaba's Qwen, which were released in recent days and viewed favorably by investors and users, has turned the AI race on its head once again. Kimi K3 also was competitive with US models on some benchmarks. No. See, the Wall Street Journal is owned by Rupert Murdoch. Rupert Murdoch is some sort of propagandist for the Zionist system. He also owns Dow Jones. He owns the Wall Street Journal, Dow Jones, Fox News, etc. Right? This is all one big Zio freak show. And that's why, like, how the fuck do I get the scoop on Wall Street Journal? Think about that. How is it like July 21, like you're hearing? So you've heard it from me for 6 months, a year. The debate over the spicy sausage. The debate over the new models, which are open weight, allow users to download and customize them with company data and specific tasks, like Reconstruction USA. Coincides with the division of the Trump administration about whether to take steps to limit the use of models in the United States. Listen to this, this paragraph. One probable outcome of an open weight model dominant world is full AI communism, which is precisely what China proposes rather than a market product, AI as a public good, which will ultimately be provided by the state as a kind of digital public infrastructure, said Dean Ball, OpenAI's head of strategic futures. They're done, people. They're done. It's over. It's over. Okay, let's just unpack that for a minute. Remember, Peter Thiel goes to the Vatican and gives this speech about the Antichrist. He said, well, what we really need is software to take over everything so that Greta Thunberg and some sort of a mix of nations don't come together and try to control technology. And this is like a philosophy class. You have to have your shit together to sort through this. The Trump administration, whose lead AI company is really Palantir, wrote a book called The Technological Republic and said, we're going to control, not the US government, just some random group of tech lords are going to run everything, right? And any alternative to that's open source that allows you to take the technology and put it in $10,000 worth of Apple hardware on that desk right there, that's communism. Who's the guy that told you? Say something, Linda. Who's the guy that told you that Trump is a Bolshevik? This guy. There was Marxism, there was Zionism. They came out of the 20th century. And then what this is the attempt to do those two things with technology. And President Xi of China went to the AI summit last Thursday and said, all of our systems are open source. I don't know how anybody has a single dollar in the NASDAQ right now. I don't know how they have any of their net worth in the. I would say it to a guy who manages 10 billion. How are you justifying having 40% of your clients' money in tech companies that have no future? I mean, Apple and Google will be fine. Oracle's down 60%, like I told you. Microsoft's down 35, 40%. This is worse than the Iran war. Ball, a former Trump administration official, called such a scenario a dystopian hellscape. Open source is a dystopian hellscape. And because their shit is going to go to zero. and said he expected the Trump administration to make moves toward reducing the use of open source models. Okay, let's all calm down. Ball later clarified that he wasn't advocating for the U.S. government to discourage Chinese AI. Okay, right, because they always have to talk out of both sides of the mouth. He also highlighted a central challenge with the AI race. Top-tier AI company raised billions of dollars to pay for the vast computing resources needed to continue AI improvements. If everyone uses AI systems that people largely don't pay for, there would be no way to finance continued frontier AI development. Ball, who started at the company earlier this month and focuses on policy strategy, and OpenAI have said that his comments don't reflect the company's official position. The company has developed its own open models, and chief executive and sister abuser Sam Altman has previously said OpenAI's past approach of only developing closed tools was unwise. That was going to try to go public. It's been trying to go public for the last 3 years at some gigantic valuation, and it can't go public because it doesn't have anything. Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei for years has warned about the risks of powerful and open AI systems, saying in a recent Bloomberg interview that having AI models with advanced cybersecurity capability that are free to download could be harmful. It's a serious concern, he said. Now, if you've been following it, Palantir is being driven out of Europe. Nobody really wants a kill chain. It's funny that way. Anthropic has gone back and forth with the Pentagon because they wanted to use OpenAI they wanted to use Anthropic for the war in Iran and Ukraine. All the wars, all the drones and all the missiles and everything that's happening overseas is being run by AI. You understand that? There's no humans like running, because this is how fucking insane this is. We are losing this war. And I remember being on here and I'm like, Alex Karp thinks we're going to like win a war against China, Russia, and Iran with a video game. He's like a little boy playing with his dick under the table or something. He's like a Dungeons and Dragons kid. You remember those guys? Yeah, we're just going to I think it was 3 nights ago, we launched 600 drones at Russia. Like, Russian people aren't just going to sit there and go, okay, we give up. The current open source model frontier is starting to catch up with China's. Wall Street Journal doesn't miss a trick, do they? On Wednesday, Thinking Machines Lab, led by former OpenAI technology Miro Murati, released its first AI model as OpenWeight. NVIDIA's Nomatron 3 Ultra is starting to see some traction, and Reflection AI, a NVIDIA-backed open model developer, has close ties to the Trump administration and plans to release its first model later this year. Now, let me give you a little heads up on there. All of that NVIDIA's stuff, if you try to run OpenAI, if you try to run open source AI on NVIDIA products, it's like running 4 hot water tanks wide open. Like, it's that much electricity. Apple is like a toaster. Just digest that. In other words, you could do about 70% of any of the biggest AI models, either with something that is like a big 4,000 square foot house in Texas running the air conditioner, or a toaster. You tell me who's going to win there. And this has been public knowledge for a year. The market's faith in Anthropic and OpenAI continuing to build more capable models that push the AI frontier has been at the heart of the boom, help 5% of GDP. The heart of the boom, helping to justify trillions, finally use the word trillions of dollars in spending on infrastructure in the coming years. The threat that new players will vastly undercut what they can charge for advanced AI pushed down some tech and AI company stock prices last week. You don't say. David Sachs, venture capitalist and White House AI advisor, suggested that he read Ball's post as a confession to regulatory capture strategies. Sachs and others have long seen calls for AI regulation by companies such as Anthropic as efforts to use new laws and policy to stymie competitors. They're all mixed up in this. They don't know if they were to regulate it, deregulate it, get rid of it. I'm going to reference the Beach Boys here in a minute. Be like, really, dude? The weaponization of regulatory uncertainty as a competitive tool should be completely unacceptable. Well, they're already floating the ideas out that we're not going to be able to use Chinese AI. But, right, and Larry Ellison, the guy's company who's being destroyed by AI right now, it's down 60%. He has about a third of his shares pledged against margin loans, which runs his lifestyle. Now, it'll have to go down 90% for him to have margin calls. But Larry Ellison is currently in liquidation. That's the guy that took over TikTok. I had over 200,000 followers from 2 channels. Larry Ellison took over TikTok for the same reason they're talking about taking over open source, because TikTok was sort of open source, right? Douchebags like me could get on and, you know, I think one of my favorite skits looking back on is I dressed up and I actually looked a little bit like Anthony Blinken, and I did this like Saturday Night Live skit of Anthony Blinken, right? And it goes up. And then they just kept turning the screws harder and harder after Gaza. And then Jonathan Greenblatt said, remember this? He said, we have a major, 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 major problem with TikTok. So Larry Ellison took it over. Before this, I'm just reciting this because I haven't thought about it for a long time. Do you remember when Biden started to talk about, hey, we have to do something about TikTok? We're not sure how that's going to work there. It's like some communists or some Chinese people. So they moved everything onto the servers of Oracle, which is controlled by Larry Ellison. And then when Trump came in, remember it was going to go away, but Trump, unbelievable, we got TikTok back on, we had it taken over. So they have moved Larry Ellison in to take it. So you could wake up one morning and like Larry Ellison will take over DeepSeek or something. But here's the problem. Musical interlude. Seriously, like listen, I have to play this song for you. Okay, there we go. The reason I played this is this is Brian Wilson, like as total genius. So this is like this lush beach sun, warmth of the sun thing, right? Well, underneath it, there's like the third chord that they play is like this weird chord that doesn't belong. When you play it on a guitar to yourself, you're like, what is that? It's like creepy. It's like the kind of chord you hear like in a horror movie. Why am I going on about this? What they're going to do, they can't take the servers and aim them at Oracle and let Larry Ellison take over DeepSeek, because me and Camille are going to download it onto hardware. The same way that you can like take chords and learn them and like go play the song somewhere. They're going to try to outlaw a chord, and that chord, I don't know which one it is, but that Catholic Church like outlawed a chord in the Middle Ages. They said it sounded satanic. I think it's something related to that song. That's why I brought it up. I know it's goofy, but that's what makes me irritated. They're going to try all these cheese dicks from Silicon Valley and the venture. They don't have anything, people. I've been explaining this to you for years. The NASDAQ doesn't have anything. They don't have any, new iPhone. So they came up with this big egregore of AI. It's going to we're all going to get free bubble up and rainbow stew. And it's going to make everything cheaper. And we're going to have robots. And we're just going to fire everybody. And it's going to be like some sort of fucking utopia. And then the assholes like this write these books called Man God. We have AI. So we're going to be like man gods. I know I'm repeating myself, but if you spend a lot of time studying this, you sort of go like, what do they have? They're going to build a data server farm in West Texas, the size of southern Manhattan, right? I've gone on and on and on about this for a couple of years. Now they have nothing. They have nothing. It's like Jim Cramer. They know nothing. They know nothing. They know nothing. And I did the thing for you with Alex Karp because he's such a spaz, you almost can't listen to him. And that's just like Jim Cramer. He said, I'm talking to these CEOs. That's exactly what Jim Cramer said. I'm talking to these CEOs and they're telling me off the record what's really happening. And these firms are going to go out of business and they're nuts. They're nuts. Bill Poole is what do you say? Bill Poole is shameful. Remember all that stuff? It's funny. If you haven't watched it, you should get playing. It's Jim Cramer's rant with Becky Quick. And it really was like the thing that like they could never put Humpty back together after that. They could, after hearing Jim Cramer freak out like that, of all the things he's done that's wrong. He said, I think he said to buy Bear Stearns 3 days before it went bankrupt. So Alex Karp, like really the leading AI, because it's the only thing that makes any money, came out on CNBC, I think it was 3 Fridays ago, and said these large language models are done. OpenAI and Anthropic are done. They strategically don't have anything. And President Xi comes out last Thursday and says, you really should take a minute and go read this stuff. It's on, you can go find it on Substack at Shanaka's page, Shanaka Onsong Panera. Pereira, sorry. Scroll down, it's about 10 articles ago, but go read about what, imagine President Xi thought this was important enough to actually go be the keynote speaker at in regards to AI. Now, as to outlawing the flat E chord, I think it's better than if it's about 50-50 that the Trump administration in some way, shape, or form is going to try to regulate DeepSeek. By the way, I ordered my DeepSeek hat yesterday. It's not here yet, but you'll be seeing me walk around with my DeepSeek hat on for the next couple of weeks and doing content with DeepSeek. Because what's going to happen is it's going to become as big as the Iran war. Trump is going to look so impotent. Great word for him. Big hands at big hands. Mushroom Dick is going to look so impotent as the Iran war goes bad, the price inflation goes bad, the interest rates go bad, and the NASDAQ starts going down. And I don't know what the fuck they're going to do with 15% of the corporate bond market, investment grade corporate bond market is AI related. It's 15% or some number like that of Athene annuities. These are like the things that send checks to old people. Apollo bought that and then drove the AI diseased cattle onto their balance sheet. People, this is so big. I know you're sick of hearing me talk like this, and it just because the problem just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and the ETFs got bigger, and the options trading on top of the ETFs and the 2x levered ETFs got bigger. This is nothing like 2000. 2008 was like a glorified savings and loan thing. Some people say Pet Sounds is like, what do we got here? Somebody just threw up something at me. Thanks, Rocky. 30 minutes ago from the Rocky. I owe you one, buddy. 30 minutes ago from a Bloomberg terminal. Bloomberg terminals. How much are Bloomberg terminals, Rocky? Are they like 1,000 a month or something like that? Pretty substantial news flow. And now we have all this other stuff. But still, a Bloomberg terminal is a big thing to have. You can look up, you can punch in a CUSIP number and look up the information on every security traded anywhere in the English-speaking world. Probably 80% of the world. Moonshot, Zippo AI risk, U.S. ban following Descent update React. Recent event reaction. Moonshot and Zippo AI risk being banned in the US following Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, hedge fund guy, threat to sanction any company found guilty of here it comes, people. Here it comes. Found guilty of intellectual property theft. Now, OpenAI has been chewing through everything on the fucking internet for the last 5 years, but yeah, they didn't do anything wrong. Is found guilty of intellectual property theft. The statement follows the White House recent decision to restrict foreign access to Anthropic's flagship models. Anthropic has accused Moonshot AI of being behind an unauthorized coordinated distillation attack on its models. Zippo, I don't know how to pronounce it, ZHIPU AI is already on the Commerce Department's entity list, which restricts its ability to do business with U.S. firms. A complete U.S. ban would severely, I'm so glad you put this up here, severely curtail both firms' international ambitions, widening losses at the already deeply unprofitable companies. Rising agentic AI use will widen Zippo AI's operating loss to $736 million in 2026, according to consensus, more than twice the reported $352 million losses. Well, our losses are in hundreds of billions already. So let's all be friends. So it's coming, people. Now, what this is going to do, Andrew Horowitz, Andreessen Horowitz invested with Ellison. Yeah, Andreessen, remember, he's the guy that said, thank God for video games and opioids. So that poor rural people will just kill themselves. This is who runs your country. Sharon. I'm seeing if there's any other headlines, because this is, like, I've done this for 5 years on here. I think today is maybe the most terrifying thing I've ever seen. Because here's what's going to come next. That hot hat is synthetic, and it's real hot and uncomfortable to wear. Is the audio low? I don't think so. If they do make a move on AI, several things will happen. And this is why we'd really like you to be engaged with Reconstruction USA right now. It already has an API between DeepSeek and Chainopera. Chainopera uses other LLMs. So it's somewhat ambiguous. Ambiguous? Yeah. The attempt to quash open source models is going to be the thing that triggers the complete collapse of the nest. Or let me say it differently. It will destroy America's ability to compete. In other words, if you remember when Trump came in, unbelievably, very sternly, and China's ripping us off. They're not getting our chips. 50% tariff on everything. China. Remember Liberation Day? And all the Chinese people got on TikTok and said, like, you guys know we make everything. We make everything. We make your purses, your shoes, your clothes, your chips, your iPhones. We make everything. You guys don't make anything. Remember all that? So then all these swinging dicks came on Bloomberg and CNN. China's 10 years behind us. They don't have access to the best chips. Only NVIDIA, like the whole world, all of America took on like Trump's persona. Like they're way behind us. They're never going to catch up. Well, they caught up. It's open source and it's free. It's free. There's $2 trillion off the balance sheet. There's probably $1 trillion worth of venture capital. There's probably $500 billion in corporate bonds. Oracle is going away. Oracle looks like it's going to zero. I mean, this is a $600 billion company that's like on its way to zero. The NASDAQ, and I've always tried to explain it like this, is not going to go down because some people look at some numbers and go, no, I think it's like not in here. I think it should be like, no. What's going to happen to the NASDAQ? Because the graph goes like this, right? And when the graph goes like this, it doesn't roll over. Anything that goes like this goes like this. And I never really understood what would be the trigger to bring it back down. But it's going to be the Trump administration playing fuck around and find out with trying to outlaw musical progression. You see where I'm going with it? Like, no, you're not allowed to use that. It's code. It's fucking code. You could drive to the Apple store right now and come home, plug it in next to your toaster, and download like this 75% of the biggest models in the world. They're going to try to outlaw that. And they're going to blast away any semblance that like American tech rules the world. American tech doesn't rule the world in anything. Not in fucking missiles, not in AI, not in anything. I hate to jump around like this, but the Houthis are about to close the Red Sea. The seventh poorest people on earth are about to close the Red Sea for all traffic. Trump will resign. And J.D. Vance will be memed out of existence. Fat Vance, chubby Vance, hillbilly Vance. They will make him look like the big, and I'm very happy to participate in that. You will see a collapse of everything that white people believe in. The NASDAQ, the war on terror, MAGA, Joel Osteen. I don't know about Joel Osteen. I got all carried away there, but like, people will look at like the Charlie Kirk murder or assassination or whatever, and there's all this weird stuff, and there's a 30-06, and it wasn't a 30-06, and it was blood and this, and Erica Kirk, it's so weird, and they're going to look at the whole economy as basically like Erica Kirk. Like, I don't know what's happening, but it's all bullshit. And I don't know who's going to give you your money back for your fucking 401k. I don't know who's going to buy it from you. I don't know where it's going to come from. Think about it. So, like, well, you mean there's like $20 trillion of like AI? Yeah, it's 22 trillion. It's just like Trump said. It's all in. If you sat down this afternoon and just, like I do, just go through it all. Off balance sheet, private credit, investment grade corporate bonds, junk bonds. Oracle's going to be a junk bond any day. It really is a junk bond, but they won't do it because they're afraid to be sued and all that shit. If you tally it all up, it's about 20, and the market cap, the like sort of extreme market cap of like Nvidia that only makes gaming chips, being the most valuable company in the world. Okay. It could go down $4.5 trillion and still be at 500 billion and still be a giant company. Right. So I'm going to just throw it out there that it's a $22 trillion problem. Who's going to buy $22 trillion worth of tech paper? I don't know. God's going to open an IRA or what? Who's going to buy 22? Well, it's not going to be 22 trillion. It's going to be 20 trillion, and that's going to be 50 trillion. My God, there's not there. I don't know what number it ends up being. This is how the NASDAQ could go down 80%. NVIDIA could go down 80%. What's 80%? NVIDIA could go down 80% from its peak and still be worth $1 trillion. They've actually started to make a little thing, little box like Apple's that doesn't have their GPUs in. In other words, they've already seen that the future isn't even their fucking GPUs. Let's just see if there's anything else I miss in this article. It's not very long. Security-focused administration officials in the past year have considered a slew of measures to crack down on Chinese AI companies. Developing open models, people familiar with the discussion set. They've weighed adding the business to trade blacklists, security warnings on Chinese AI companies, and potential executive order targeting open models. People said, adding that disagreement within the administration has prevented it subject. Just to remind you, like if Camille downloads some, I don't think we'd ever do the top one because it would be like about $100,000 worth of equipment. I think I sketched it out, but for about $30,000, what you do is you take like the Apple video things. What are they called? Vision? Not Vision. It's the one they use to basically to edit movies. And like an amplifier, like that Marshall amplifier over there, you like just loop them together. You put like 5 of them together. I did a thing on Manus AI, and you should take 20 seconds of your life and do the same thing. And the genius of this is if they want to track it, if they want to follow it, they can just download it whenever they want. It's not like TikTok. There's not like some secret code in the algorithm. You can go look at all the code. You can hold the DeepSeek code in a little Apple product and like hand it to the CIA and say, there, go figure it out. Go chase it around the internet. That is one of the things that I wanted to say. We may actually be witnessing this. I hope there's an algorithm that follows me, and Substack makes these little vignettes of my pieces. I hope it gets this one. You may be witnessing the transition of leadership of the internet from America to China. That might be just what happened. I have to lay in bed at night and stare at the ceiling to think about the ramifications. I don't mean China's going to take it over, but the way we've used the internet through Facebook, through Amazon, through signing on through Microsoft and Google and Apple, and it's reading you and it's reading where you're going and everything. And see, this is a big part of the blockchain world. These people in crypto land, like Vitalik Buterin, have been talking about this for a long time. At some point, we're going to get onto the internet. It's going to be a different thing. Everything's not going to go through Google and Apple. You're going to sign on with a wallet, or you're going to sign on with some sort of open source AI thing. It won't even know. The internet won't even necessarily know. I mean, this is what we're trying to build with Reconstruction USA. I have to take a moment and tell you this. Chain Opera was built by something called Federated Machine Learning, which was built for healthcare, for like these giant healthcare systems like Kaiser Permanente or the UCSD Healthcare or UPMC Pittsburgh, where you would train agents in workflow but not steal all the data, right? Because we have HIPAA and we have social security numbers and we have your prescription drug history and all that. And we can't just have that just zipping around the internet randomly. So Chain Opera has already solved this problem. This is what Chain Opera is built for. And we're on it. When you go to Reconstruction USA, you're just going through this simple portal. It's free. You don't have to give us your social security number. You don't have to give us your credit card number, email address, nothing. Just go on there anonymously and tell us your idea, where ideas are legion. And we're going to build legions. We're going to build like a Facebook marketplace of ideas. without taking your information. If you want to put the information of who you are, that's fine, but you don't have to. This is pretty exciting because we've already, the problem as it's being presented here is we've already solved that. Congress restricted the use of Chinese model DeepSeek on federal and defense networks because of security and privacy concerns last year, but lawmakers and administration have stopped short of imposing other restrictions. One challenge is that smaller model makers, including several Chinese companies, use a technique called distillation in which they harvest the capability of top US tools. This is my Beach Boys moment. This is why I'm saying, like, it's like saying you're not allowed to listen to a Beatles song with your guitar on your lap and figure out the chords. How the fuck are they going to do that? You can take one AI and say, just go make the other AI. The Trump administration is committed to promoting America's open source ecosystem. Anthropic and OpenAI are not open source. And strengthening its security at White House. They are going to fuck this up so bad and look so stupid. And the tech community and Gen Z are just going to, and this is the, okay, we always have to throw in the fourth turning. So Gen Z is just going to go, oh, the real problem with with AI is you don't control it. We do. And we don't really need you. And we don't really need Microsoft. And we don't really need Oracle. And we don't really need Google. In fact, we don't need fucking any of you. That's what the fourth turning predicted in 1941. Sorry, 1991. That around 2025, 26, the waves of the baby boomers would like roll over, and the baby boomers would sort of go insane and sort of elect Donald Trump. And the whole system will just sort of collapse because of it. And Gen X, like my age, will be like, oh, I don't know, maybe we should make like some open source something called a Reconstruction USA. And then the millennials will be like, yeah, fuck these corporations. Because millennials have always been known to be like, whenever they'd like do questionnaires and demographics and stuff, and they go like, would you leave your job tomorrow for another job and like not give your company notice? Like 87%. I would leave my company in 4 minutes as fast as I could, like, take the pictures off my desk. We're the nomads, baby boomers are the prophets. What's the millennials? I forget what the millennials are. And then Gen Z, 20-somethings, are the artists. So open source AI is the perfect framework to do anything. Finance, music. Like, it doesn't even mean that like it's going to write the song for you, but like you could write the song and say like, how do I put in a bridge like the Beach Boys did in such and such a song? It would just instantly go and technically instant recognition. That's how I use it. AI is increasingly synonymous with power, and the dual use concerns are real. But for American businesses and most of the world, being able to run cheap, high quality models in a way that they can control is going to matter a lot, said Austin Carson, CEO of Seed AI, an AI policy nonprofit. If you know about open source, you know that you can't win by exclusion. The Trump administration, I told my dad the other day, I said, Trump's only gonna, I like to do this too, because he gets off. I said, the Book of Revelation says that Trump's only going to be in office for 42 months. He's like eating a sandwich or something. He looks over at me like I have 3 heads. Like, what? What did you just? So I said, yeah, like real calm, like real, like, deadpan face. I was like, oh yeah, the Bible says that Trump? I said, yeah, Trump's the man of perdition. He's not the Antichrist. That's. My dad just stared at me like I was completely insane. And I said, 42 months. You watch. That does say something. Revelation about the man of perdition. And the man of perdition is a perfect way to describe Trump, right? He's just blasphemous, just lose everyone. We're going to bomb him into the state. China, we used to get rid of the China deep seek or something. He'll fuck that up too. He will look like the biggest dick ever. And then he's going to have he's going to have David Sachs beside him and Bissett, who looks like some sort of like freak out of like a Kubrick movie. And they're going to sit here and like try to unfuck their AI thing. They're 22 trillion. And the more they talk about it, the worse it's going to be, right? Because everybody knows Trump can't do anything right. He fucked up the World Cup, right? Everything he does, everything he touches turns to shit. I don't know if you've ever really thought about what it means when the US president cheerleads the stock market. Do you understand like how contradictory that is? That means you don't have a market. There's something else going on there. It's like Descent. Remember, the price of oil started up, and Descent comes out and he has that look on his face. I don't know where they find these people. I thought, well, we're just gonna. And he gets this like, we're just gonna intervene in the futures market tomorrow, price, like a hedge fund, because he's a hedge fund guy. And yeah, they could. The U.S. Treasury, or you don't know this, but there's something called the Exchange Stabilization Fund. It has a deep, like, conspiratorial background, like $1 trillion worth of gold in a cave in the Egypt. Regardless, yeah, they could intervene in the oil markets, and let's say they just run it down to like 38. Well, no one's going to drill in West Texas at $38 oil, which means you don't have. Eventually, you won't have any oil. This is how fucking crazy these people are. The head of the CME, where you trade oil futures, came out 3 days later and he said, if they do that, that will cause Armageddon. We are on an absolute ship of fools, of clowns and grifters and liars, hucksters like Sam Altman, and Alex Karp is like going to run a war with software against Russia. I'd suggest you start just, rolling around in your mind, like some new ideas, some new arrangements might look like. I talked to a kid that I grew up with. He's not a kid, it's my age now. I grew up with, we went to 4-H camp together and stuff like that. And I said, I mean, this was a crazy idea, but I have a whole like 40-page plan on my iPad. It's like looking for some strip mine land. And he's like, yeah, I got it. I said, yeah. The neighbor of mine said that, it's like, hey, Jimmy, you can go look. We'll see you on Wednesday. You can go look at it. So what do you want to do? I said, I need like a feedlot kind of a thing for sheep. It doesn't really have to have pasture. He says, well, there's 800 acres there. It's all yours. I mean, that's the kind of thing you're going to have to start thinking about for the economy. This thing, 5% of GDP, is like 4 or 5 times bigger than the New Deal. And net, it's worth 0. Less than 0.